The Christians that meet at the Gospel Hall in Kinross appreciate your joining us on our website today. Our hearts reach out to those that have been affected and to those that are at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19, putting their own lives at risk to bring the pandemic under control. There's another comparable problem that is wider reaching, that is from age old and afflicting the whole population without any exception. It affects us all. Almost 3,000 years ago, a writer in the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, in chapter 7, verse 20, says, "There's not a just man in all the earth that doeth good and sinneth not." The passing centuries have produced only one exception to that: the Lord Jesus Christ, whose virgin birth we remember at Christmas time. As with COVID-19, where we are adapting with such directives as self-isolating to contain the spread, so civilization has adapted to accommodate the effects that sin has brought, for sin is what it is. Sin is the problem. And these include the police force, the courts of law, prisons, armies, all these to combat the effects of sin. King David was the greatest king that Israel ever had, and yet he too was guilty of sin and failure in his life. On one occasion, he sinned and tried to cover it up, which led to further sin. David lived a roller coaster of a life, sometimes on the mountain peak of joy, sometimes in the depths of despair, but there was one thing that he never lost, and that was his trust and confidence in his God. Psalm 32 records the expression of joy when he received forgiveness for the sins that he had committed. In verse 1 we read, "Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered." There's a parallel Psalm 51, where David confesses his sin to God. So what is the lesson for us today in the 21st century? Sin affects us all. It separates us from God, excludes no one, and has eternal consequences. Another Bible verse found in Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 2, which says, "Your iniquities have separated between you and your God." In the New Testament, Romans chapter 3, verses 22 and 23 say, "There is no difference, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." There is only one exception to that in the whole of time, and that is the Lord Jesus, God's eternally equal Son. He took on unsinning humanity that he might, at the cross of Calvary, voluntarily pay the full price that our sin required, and on our behalf. And there he died for us. So one offer from God as a result of Calvary's cross is absolute unconditional forgiveness, making us right with God, assuring us of an eternal home in heaven, a goal that can never be achieved by good works, or being religious even, or being charitable. All of these are good things in their place. But is it conceivable that God would allow his precious Son to die at the cross of Calvary and experience such indescribable pain and shame if there was another way? Of course he wouldn't. I close this meditation with another verse, which is probably the best known verse in the whole Bible, John chapter 3, verse 16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." If you would find a Bible and or other literature helpful, please contact us via the email address on the website, or text us on 0781 805 0785, and we will have delivered to you suitable literature. We will not further harass you, but if you would like to contact us to discuss spiritual problems, please contact us and we will be delighted to help in any way we possibly can. Thank you for listening.